Okay. So for this practice, having the usual props, we won't be journaling this time. We are just going to get right into some movement. So having your blocks, your blanket, your bolster, some water, some nice music, anything that you'd like to have for this practice. So continuing with this theme of mindfulness, the invitation tonight is mindfulness as a state, this practice of being instead of doing, which our mind has a really hard time with. We want to be good at something. We want to know if we're doing it right, but we're not doing anything. We are shifting focus and awareness to everything that is. And it's impossible for us to be doing everything that is. Like the wind is blowing right now, the light's shining in the room, my sweater is soft. All of these things, I'm not doing anything. I'm simply noticing that these things are happening. So mindfulness as a state to invite deeper connection to your intuition. Intuition isn't something that can be taught. It's something that you do on your own that connects you deeper to yourself, to that voice inside. I heard once that the ego is loud. It's always the voice that you can hear the loudest. It might even be shouting at you sometimes in your mind. Whereas the intuition might start off really soft and sweet. And say, oh, what about this? Or I don't really want to do that. Or whatever it's saying. I really want this. But then the ego kind of comes in. So mindfulness as a state to invite in connection to intuition. Intuition is going to be your main, I don't want to call it a tool, your main connection to yourself as you move through labor and you move through this journey to meet your baby. So let's practice quieting ourselves down to connect to that space. Okay. Mindfulness as a state to connect to intuition. All right. Let's go on our mats. We'll start in a seated cross-legged position. Stretch my legs out for a moment. Any wiggles or wobbles you want to get out of the way before coming into your seat. If this is your first time kind of becoming deeply aware of your body today, whether you've been at work or you have another child or whatever your situation is, this might be the first time that you notice your body, and there might be some things talking to you that want to be worked out a little bit. As you come into your seat, you can be right at the edge of your blanket, letting your pelvis have this space to sort of pour forward. Letting your hands just start to rest on your lap for now. Maybe a few shrugs of the shoulders to open up the heart and sit tall. Take a deep breath into your nose and open mouth exhale. Again. One more if you want it. Your eyes softly closing. Gently bring your lips together, soften your jaw. And welcome in or ignite this Ujjayi breath, this ocean-like sound. As you inhale, a slight constriction of the throat. As you exhale, like you're fogging a mirror, hearing this wave of your breath. And it's so interesting that you can be connected to your breath, be aware, and still have all of these thoughts moving through. Like you're watching a movie, and you're not actually in the movie today. So continuing just a few more moments, the Ujjayi breath. Take your time as you arrive. Very beginning of our practice, this phase of opening, softening. We're connecting to mindfulness as a state for deeper connection to intuition. So with your eyes just staying softly closed or just dropping that gaze to the floor, we're going to drop our attention down to our pelvic floor, down to our root chakra and our sacral chakra, all in this region together. The space where our intuition and our trust for our bodies, or trust within our bodies, and trust within ourselves is so powerful. So before we do any controlled or guided breathing with our pelvic floor, just start to move these muscles. What does it feel like to get a little kind of twitch or a little tickle sometimes when you start to move, right? These muscles, sometimes if we have a hard time connecting to them, it's kind of that feeling of starting and stopping the flow when you're on the toilet, right? It can connect from the front of your genitals all the way back towards your bum. All of these muscles just starting to work, making friends with them here as they will help you meet your baby. And then relax your pelvic floor. And the movement will be an inhalation, pulling and engaging these muscles of the pelvic floor in and up towards your body. As we breathe in, we're sort of imagining this elevator moving up towards the crown of our head. Then the exhale, letting these muscles blossom open as we move down from the crown of our head, back to the spine, back to the pelvic floor. So this is called the looping pelvic breath. Okay. We can just start with this flow of breath. Noticing this next inhale, and if you're ready to engage these muscles, lifting the pelvic floor, and then exhaling, releasing and blossoming open. As you inhale, lifting all the way up to the crown of the head. As you breathe in, feeling this pull, this holding of the pelvic floor. And then exhaling down the spine. Following your exhale. Again, inhaling, lifting. Exhaling, blooming open. And if your mind is wondering if you're doing this right, you are. You absolutely are. We didn't connect to a specific part of the pelvic floor. We're inviting every muscle to the party here as we practice this connection. If you have the ability to distinguish between the front of your pelvic floor, between the back, you can focus on the front. Otherwise, all of this awareness is good. Inhaling to the crown of the head. Exhaling down the spine. All the way to the pelvic floor. Just as your pelvic floor is relaxing, as you exhale, let your shoulders relax, your jaw. Take one more full round with your in-breath to start. And then exhale. Let your muscles relax here. As you start to blink your eyes open, take a nice big stretch of the hands up overhead, rooting your pelvic floor down towards the ground, gathering your palms and floating them down to your heart. The center line that we were just tracing. Inhaling, taking the hands back up overhead, back up above the crown of the head, taking that energy, guiding it down the center. One more time. Good. Okay. You can take your hands down now. If you are seated on a blanket, you can take that off to the side. Give yourself a little bit more room. And if you'd like to switch the crossing of your legs, you can do that here too. So let's start kind of inviting the pelvic floor into our practice as an intuitive practice, right? So we're going to just start to find these little Sufi grinds, this circular seated motion, letting your hands rest where it makes sense for you to move in this way, maybe on the knees or the thighs. Letting yourself dip down, invite the shoulders, the neck. Feeling the shift of weight from one side of your body to the other, like you're rolling on a ball. And then let's reverse that direction. Awesome. Then come back up to center when you're ready. All right, take your hands back behind you. Take your feet out in front of you, nice and wide, probably as wide or wider than your mat. And then start to just find these really gentle windshield wiper twists. Swiping side to side. This is another just really nice place for your pelvic floor to be, bringing it to a nice neutral place. Okay, the next time that your knees fall to your right, let them fall there with your knee towards your foot. And then lifting just a little bit off of that back hand. Take your opposite hand, sweeping it over for a nice gentle twist. So just notice where your hands feel the best, where you feel tall. Neck lengthening, shoulders relaxed. Let the weight of your legs fall into the ground here. Releasing an exhale. And then we'll take it back to our windshield wipers one more time, side to side. You might find a nice place that needs a little bit of massage. And then letting your knees fall to the opposite side here. As you lift and take that hand with you, let your legs settle first. And then position your hands. This hand can come across to your shin or your thigh. And just check in with your legs, giving them that permission to just sink into the floor. One more full breath. Bring yourself back to center here. We'll take the feet towards the body, coming forward to all fours, hands and knees. Okay, mindfulness as a state to connect to your intuition. We don't have to do anything other than listen, which we're doing anyways, all the time. We just don't realize it sometimes. Right, so our hands spread wide here. And I'll ask you just to use your intuition as you come to all fours before we move on. How does it feel to be in this position, maybe for the first time today? No one can tell you what position that you will be in when you give birth. You will know. Moving with your baby, listening to your body. Hands and knees is a great place to work those things out. Okay, so we're going to stack ourselves back in a tabletop position, toes tucked or untucked. And we're going to do a little bit of tail wagging to start. So letting your hips move from side to side, just letting your gaze stay forward right now. We're going to do a little peekaboo at our tail. So when your hips move one direction, gently move your neck in that same direction. And then switch to the other side, looking over, seeing that hip cross center. Just a few times, right? And it doesn't have to be a huge sway over the center line, whatever feels the most comfortable. Letting your neck, a little stretch here. Okay, then we're going to switch things up. So pause in center, looking forward. Move your hips to the right and then look over the left. So opposite than we just did. And then switch. So now you're trying to find your hips that are moving away as you wag your tail. Good. One more time on each side. And then gaze back through center. Right? Hands really strong here as you take your right toes back behind, right to the mat. Keep them down and grounded. Press your heel back. Giving babe this little hammock here on our hands and knees. Keeping your chest lifted, but letting your belly relax. Moving into your hands, we're going to take that foot now off of the mat. Press the heel back. Just bring some awareness back to the pelvic floor. Having moved with through our breath. When you're ready to take that knee back down to the ground. Right to the other side with the left leg stepping back. Tuck in the toes. Big stretch for the back of the leg here. Take your time. Nice lifted chest, long neck, looking out in front of you. And then that weight moves into the hands as you lift your foot. As we connect to our core through our pregnancy, it's going to just start to feel different. We can always maintain this connection, maintain the strength through our core. All of these muscles, again, helping to meet your baby. When you're ready to, knees come down. Right? Before you even meet your baby, there's a lot through pregnancy that, of course, your core is there to support you through. Okay, so widen the knees. Move your hips back to your heels and relax yourself for a moment in child's pose. You might even flip your palms to give your wrists a little break. Or while you're resting, you can roll your wrist, whatever you like. Pressing back up to your hands, knees back under the hips. We'll come up to downward facing dog. Spreading your fingers, again, very wide, fingertips engaged. Your thumb pressing down right where your thumb meets your palm. And something that might feel good here in down dog as you pedal out your feet is to take one foot, keep it just where it is, let your heel sink down, and step your other foot just a few inches ahead. So those toes are just a few inches ahead. And your foot that stepped forward has a deep bend in your knee as you let your straight leg, the heel, sink down to the floor. Get that nice stretch through your calf. And when you're ready to step that foot back, come back to down dog and then switch, taking those other toes just ahead, deep bend into that knee, and then sinking your back heel down towards the ground. Relax your head, your neck, looking back at your feet. And then step back. Bending both knees, step forward to a forward fold. Nice and wide through the feet, soft knees. If you'd like to go right into a ragdoll here, or just let your arms dangle as your chin starts to sink towards your chest. Crown of the head reaching down towards the ground. And from here, pressing down through your feet, slowly bring yourself up to stand. Unwind, stack your spine on top of itself. And then bring your feet to a comfortable distance apart. We're going to take our time in mountain pose. Right? Mindfulness as a state, connecting us to our intuition. There's so many times throughout the day where we might be standing or sitting a certain way and our body's like, it's not very comfortable, but we're just there. Letting ourselves feel open here and bring more awareness to this throughout our day-to-day can really impact us in a physical and emotional way. So starting down of the soles of your feet, start to lift your toes, spread your toes, big wide spread, lifting those toes up. Feel the pinky toe mound, the big toe mound, and your heel all rooting down. It's sort of like this triangle on your feet. Connect to that for one more breath. Then soften your toes while still feeling that connection. Pinky toe, big toe, and heels. Okay. Now, your shins, as if you were going to move your shins forward and put a soft bend in your knee, but the shins don't really move anywhere. It's just really a sense. Energy of the shins forward, softness of the knees. Now moving up towards your thighs, this very gentle spiral in. In fact, if you do have a block, you can squeeze that right between your legs. Just kind of resetting if you step out of this for a moment. Back to your feet, your shins moving forward. And then this block hugging in, right, the spiral in. Right, we don't have to squeeze with all of our might here, just allowing this block to be held by our thighs with this spiraling motion. Bringing our pelvis to a nice neutral state. Gentle awareness of your core, the baby, right here at your center. As they move through their stages, moving your center of gravity here as well. Shoulders relax down. As you sort of move your chin, move it back and forth a little bit, kind of reaching your chin out, pulling it back, reaching it out, pulling it back. Landing with your chin pulling back and lengthening up the neck, up through the tips of the ears. Right, and your breath is allowing all of this not to feel stiff or stagnant, but letting this just sort of line up your body. Letting it feel soft, but tall and open. Like a mountain. Let's take 2 more breaths here, big and full from the roots of your feet all the way up. Crown of your head. You can move the block, set it just out in front of you if you're at the top of your mat. Take your hands up to the sky and breathe in. Exhale, soften the knees as you fold forward and step your left foot back. Coming into our lunge, you might spend some time here on that back knee lifted and just kind of exploring what it feels like to move through your hips, straightening this front leg, shifting in and out. And then letting that back knee come down. And we'll have at least one block in front of us. So heel toe your foot out a little bit wider. We're looking for a lizard lunge sort of stance. So that foot's out to the side. So you have both hands to the inside of the foot. Okay. This is where I'm going to grab my other block. And if you don't have two, that's okay. You can use one. Bring it up to the medium height. If you do have two, you can feel more stable at the tall height here. Letting the shoulders roll down the back as you start to lift and look forward. Okay. This feels like a good stretch here. As you're stretching, you're letting this back hip flexor sink down. We're also just this gentle scissoring in of the thighs. Keeping our muscles engaged as we stretch. All right, the option here is to open the foot, so you're coming onto the pinky side of your front foot, letting the sole of the foot come off, letting your knee spill open. And keeping that foot flexed with the toes lifted. Take another breath here. One more. Down to the hips, down to the pelvis. And then letting this foot close like a book. Taking your time as you sort of heel toe it back in. And then maybe sliding it back to your tabletop. Blocks to the side, hands to the mat. Okay, hips again, wagging the tail a bit here. And then tucking your toes, sending your hips back up to the sky. Downward facing dog, take a breath. And when you're ready, step forward to Uttanasana, forward fold. This time we'll lift halfway before we stand, breathing in. Exhale, reaching down. Inhaling, pressing through the feet, connect to that triangle through the feet as you stand and rise all the way up. Hands coming down to your heart. Pause and see if you can move back up from the feet all the way into this soft, yet tall and strong mountain pose. That slight spiral of the inner thighs, the softness of the knees. And breathe in, send your hands back up to the sky. Holding forward as you exhale. Bend the knees and step your right foot back. If you've got those blocks nearby, you can use them even here as your knee stays lifted for these first few breaths of exploration. Shifting out of a bent knee, bringing it towards a less bent knee. It can still be bent for sure. Okay, as you bend into your knee, Anjaneyasana, this low lunge, and then we'll take the hands or the blocks to the inside of the foot as the left foot heel toes out wider. Start to sink into this pose and start to lift off of the blocks, lifting the chest, shoulders down. Pause here. Hugging your thighs towards each other, feeling that engagement. And if you did so on the first side, you can open your knee, coming onto the pinky edge side and lifting the toes, just like in mountain pose. Lift and spread your toes. One more breath here. Very gently lowering the foot back down. Kind of backing out of your lunge here to pull this foot back to all fours. Walks off to the side. Hands to the mat. And we'll find a few more of those tail wags. And then we'll start to go into a cat-cow motion. So it can be cat-cow, forward and back, pretty straightforward. Or you can tap into that intuition sense and let it be a little bit more fluid. Let this motion eventually guide you back to child's pose in the next couple of breaths. Settle in. While we're here, feel the connection of your forehead, your third eye, the space between and just above the brows. You might even like to rock your head a little bit back and forth, giving it a little massage. Sending our energy towards loving our intuition, loving to hear what we have to say. Take one more breath. And then lifting your head, start to walk your hands towards your body so you stay in this kneeling position. And we're going to stay here for a hero's seat. You can always bring a block underneath your sits bones, right between your legs, kind of right between your feet, if you like that. And then just let your arms hang by your side for a moment. Maybe the backs of your fingers just resting on the mat if your arms happen to be that length. With your chin dropping down towards your chest, roll your left ear over towards your left shoulder. Right, and the angle at which your head and your neck is totally up to you. You can explore and see where you might want to land for a few moments. And once you're in that spot, option to take the opposite hand and sort of walk it away, or even let it flow off of the mat. So left ear to left shoulder, your right hand would be walking away. Soften the jaw. Letting your breath expand through any tension. When you're ready, let that hand float back down, chin to chest, and then letting your head sway very gently side to side. And then land on the opposite side. Take a moment again to figure out the angle at which your head wants to be, where your neck wants to be. And then your left hand can tiptoe away or even float off of the floor. Relaxing that hand down. One more time, really slowly moving out of the stretch and seeing how your body would like to come out of it. Bring that into some shoulder shrugs. And then with your right hand, you're going to tense your fingers a little bit away from the body. Take your left hand up to the sky as you breathe in. And then exhale, you can walk away if that palm can come flat, taking a side bend. Think of nice heart opening here, spinning the heart open towards the sky, towards the sun if you're practicing during the day, towards the moon if you're practicing at night. Now pressing down through that bottom hand, slowly lift yourself back up, right to center, and then tent the other fingers. Take your right hand up, breathing in, and exhale to side bend. Again, with that bottom hand support, lift yourself all the way back to center. And then we'll come forward off of the block or off of the feet and bring our legs back to a cross-legged seat. You can bring your blanket back underneath if you'd like it, or underneath the sits bones. And let's see, take both legs out in front of you. And so first trimester, second trimester, this will be a lot different than third. So you're stepping your foot in. For half lord of the fishes, this is an open twist. Normally we would twist towards the thigh. We're gonna take it open though. So you could also take the long leg into a cross-legged seat too. If that feels comfortable, you feel balanced in your pelvis. Okay, so from here, twist open away from your thigh. Twisting towards that front foot that's stamping on the floor. And as always, it's not this deep pushing twist, it's a gentle opening of the heart. And then releasing, come back. Okay, if you tuck that bottom foot, you can release it here and then take both legs out. We're gonna take the other side. Switched up here. Take your other foot on top and then bend, if you'd like, to that seat. Sitting nice and tall, hugging this knee in. This feels really nice, just in center to hug the knee in. And then when you're ready to take that open twist towards that front foot. Unwinding from your twist here. And take both legs out in front. Take them wide, nice wide V shape. And then we'll start to walk into a nice easy fold forward. If you've got a bolster, this could be something nice and heavy just to hold onto here. Toes up towards the sky. Pressing to the floor, lifting yourself back up. We'll spend some time on our back here. Right, following your intuition, of course, if being on your back at any point during your pregnancy is uncomfortable, gently roll over to your left side. We won't need any props down here right now, but coming down in a nice easy way on your side and then rolling onto your back. We'll start with our feet planted, just like in the beginning, feet nice and wide, windshield wiper, side to side, maybe feeling some different muscles being pressed in towards the ground here. And we're going to add on, kind of like, if you don't have the space directly outside of your mat, that's okay. You can kind of come up and down. But almost if you're making like a snow angel, let your knees fall to one direction and open up the opposite arm, getting a nice big stretch along that whole side of your body. Pause there, letting everything just be really relaxed and heavy. And this position doesn't put any pressure on your spine or the vena cava that could be affected here. So hopefully it feels really nice. And we'll switch to the other side, bringing your arm down, letting your legs swipe over to the other side, and then that opposite arm up to the sky. Resting it up overhead. Your other hand can come anywhere to your body. Ready, lifting your knees, dropping your hand, your arm back down by your side. And we'll take one bridge pose before we rest. Your feet walking towards your body. Roll your shoulders back to lift your chest. Lifting your hips up towards the sky. Imagining you have that block between your legs, your thighs. 3, 2, 1. Letting go. Gently placing your spine back down on the mat and choosing how you would like to rest to end your practice. Some days our intuition is speaking loud and clear. And other days it might just get covered up. And the things we have going on, the decisions we need to make. But knowing that it's always there. Always speaking your truth. Letting yourself hear it. Hear you. In the same way that you are trusting your body to inhale and exhale right now. Know that this deep intuition, this deep intelligent body knows how to birth your baby. And knows how to keep you healthy and well throughout pregnancy. Bringing your awareness to your hands and your feet now. As you welcome small movements into the fingers, down into the palms, the toes, into the soles of the feet. Let your body move into any awakening stretch here as you return back. Bringing yourself up to your seat when you're ready. Sending yourself some love here. some gratitude. Gratitude to all, near and far. Hands can come together if you'd like. Namaste.